Welcome to the No BS Podcast, the gaming news podcast where we ditch the sugarcoating and give it to you straight. I'm Blake.
And I'm Steve.
And if you're looking for real talk without the BS, you've come to the right place. Before we jump in, don't forget to stay connected with us. Follow us on X at No BS Podcast GG for all the latest updates and hot takes. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel, No BS Podcast GG, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm also live on TikTok at Blake No BS throughout the week, so make sure to stop on by and say hello. Love what you're hearing? Show your support by liking this episode, dropping a comment with your thoughts, and subscribing to keep up with all our future content. This week we focus on Rocksteady layoffs, Concord's fiasco, the future of Gerarbox, the new Minecraft movie trailer, and Wukong's success and what it means for the gaming industry. Alright, let's cut through the BS and get into today's episodes. Alright. Welcome, everyone, to the No BS Podcast. It's been a good week with a few new releases that we're excited to talk about. So on that note, Steve, what games have you been playing? What have you been up to this past week?
Yeah, so with the new WoW expansion and kind of getting closer to Raid, I think I sound kind of like a broken record, but just playing a lot of WoW currently. Raid gets, we're kind of ramping up to get ready to Raid next week. Then Space Marine 2 came out late this week, so I've been kind of grinding on that. How about you?
Yeah, say in all fairness, WoW is a game, though, that you have to grind to get ready for it. I know they're opening up heroic rating on Tuesday. I know Mythic Zeros as well. Yeah, man, honestly, same for me. I have been playing a lot of World of Warcraft and getting ready for Mythics to drop. I also, as per your recommendation, played a little bit of Age of Mythology Retold. Now, I haven't really played a whole lot of RTSs since, back of my time back in Korea, and considering I never even played the original, which I guess I didn't even realize that Age of Mythology Retold was actually just a remastered and updated version of the original that came out in 2002. And for the few hours that I played it, I mean, I actually really enjoyed it. It was it was a nice change of pace. I'm really glad that you recommended that to me last week. So
yeah, I actually just picked it up this weekend too, and I'm kind of pretty psyched to go into it and play it.
I mean, it's so easy to just dump hours into it and not even realize how much time that you've spent playing it.
Have you ever played Civ?
No, honestly, no. I've seen videos of it, but I've never actually sat down and played it.
That's the next game that I need to get you into. It's a very imagine chess, but you're playing against 7 other people at the same time. It's so fun, and a game can last hours and hours and hours. It's a blast. I think you'd enjoy it.
My wife Megan might have an issue with you recommending all these games to me, man. My bank account isn't going to be too happy. So speaking of bank accounts not looking too happy, man. So things aren't looking so good for Rocksteady. The game developer with the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game, and there was an article that was put out by Eurogamer that they lost over half of its staff. They had a staff of 33 or something like that, and now they're down to around 15. And we've talked on this before. Basically, the game, the whole Suicide Squad, the main reason why it got flopped was due to the part of it being too woke. And the Suicide Squad actually joins a long list of failed games who had tried way too hard to appease to that kind of woke culture. They're joining fellow games like Forspoken, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, and a few others. And I don't think that there's really anything going wrong with a little woke, and trying to implement characters with different ethnicities or sexual orientations. But trying to change a whole game and change its story to cater to that, I don't think it's really sitting well with its fans. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, and you see some of the biggest games in the world that do have that kind of aspect of wokeness. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the wokest games ever made, but it doesn't just throw it right into your face, which I think this game is a proponent of doing. It's just with Mrs. Freeze, changing an iconic character to be a black lesbian woman. It's what is going on? You're just going on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. And like you said, DC, I think they could have done incredible with this game. When I first heard that this game was coming out, I was pretty hyped about it. But the more and more you see of it, just ruins it for me. And it's I think live service as a whole, like you're seeing a lot of live service games not do too great recently, and I think this is just another example of that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like I said, at one point, like I can understand it, trying to make your game appeal to everyone, but there's a fine line in appealing to everyone and going overboard and doing. I mean, there's been a few games. Like I said, there's a lot going on with games nowadays where they're trying too hard to be correct and politically correct, and in doing so, they're changing the game that everybody loves, right? Like how do you, like Alan Wake 2, how do you change a whole game to cater to, be more woke? It's not a good look, and fans are speaking with their wallets by not purchasing these games. So speaking of games that aren't doing well, I'm sure everybody has seen the news that Sony pulled Concord just on September 6th, literally just a mere 2 weeks after the game launched on August 23rd. Supposedly there was a total of only around 23,000 total copies, and that was across all platforms. It's mainly due in part, I believe, to like its high price tag. It came in like $40 and the slow gameplay. I know we talked a little bit about it last week, that the game was just very hard to like get into, and it was just way too slow pace. And surprising. Go ahead.
Oh no, and I was going to say, and the thing is, like there were actually people that were enjoying the gameplay, so it wasn't necessarily the game was just terrible. Like people really actually enjoyed the game itself. It's just like we were kind of talking about earlier. It's the idea when these developers are just throwing wokeness at you, and I know a lot of journalists are kind of trying to sway the mindset and have people think that the wokeness isn't the reason that this game failed, but it is a large piece of the puzzle, and it really does kind of show, like you were saying, people are speaking with their wallets now, and they're not going to continue to support this going on in the industry.
Yeah, man, and like what's crazy is, so there was another article put out that the devs are actually being shown like a lot of gratitude from some fans and even like fellow developers, despite the game's massive failure. And last week, we had talked about how the dev went on like a huge, massive like meltdown on X, calling its players talentless freaks. So I'm surprised really that anybody had anything positive to say about them.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I think the thing is these people worked hard on this game.
Oh, 100%.
And who knows who were the people that were kind of making the decisions and telling them that they needed to develop the game in a specific way. And again,
this was actually their first game. So the studios, they're called Firewalk Studio. This is actually like their first game. And I'm sure you knew this. The people who actually worked on this, like, there's a few of them that came that actually worked on Destiny. So like, you'd expect like a good game. And maybe, like you said, maybe it's just we don't know who was telling them to develop it a certain way. But I know a lot of folks are kind of hoping that they get a second chance. So like, again, maybe this was just the wrong game at like the wrong time. But the game as a whole didn't look so bad. It just was, like you said, like the wokeness and things like that.
Yeah, when this game was kind of put into development, if the dates that we're seeing online are correct, they started developing this in 2016, and had this come out around that era, I think it would have been a completely different reception. I think wokeness was at an all-time high back in the late 2010s. You had games like Overwatch being released. People were comfortable with paying $40, $60 for a AAA game, versus now you're looking at I like to kind of call it post-Fortnite era, where if you're a live service game and you're charging an upfront fee, it creates such a big barrier to entry that
100%.
Most players just don't want to pay to play this game, especially when it's almost a carbon copy of Overwatch. It's just the worst version of Overwatch.
Well, especially like in the economy today, man. I mean, it's hard for people. I mean, it's again like Fortnite, the player base is a lot of younger kids, so it's like some of these parents, I'm sure, can't just justify throwing the $40 out at a new game when you do got games like Fortnite and Overwatch 2 that are free.
Yeah, and part of me was kind of hoping that this game would succeed, just because I think it would have shown a humongous impact to the gaming industry, that players are comfortable with paying a fee and not
Yeah.
going that microtransaction route. Like, they're fine paying $40 to get a complete game versus paying for certain thing, or getting to play the game for free and then having to pay for cosmetics and pay for other things along down the road.
Yeah, I remember reading that they, like, I know you said they've been in development since like 2016. I had read several articles basically solidifying the fact that they were like, they wanted to release it earlier. They wanted to push it out, but it just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And to be frank, like, I honestly think, like, if they would have put this out like around the time of like Overwatch and Paladins and stuff like that were around, I think they could have seen like some major success, especially given the fact that they're trying to, they were trying to do away with the microtransactions, giving us that full game without having to pay for skins and heroes and all that other stuff.
I think the tough part too with this game, it doesn't provide anything to really connect the players to the heroes. This is a hero shooter where the characters don't necessarily really look like heroes.
Yeah.
Like, at least in games like Overwatch, Paladins, or any other hero shooter type of game, you're playing as a badass looking character. And honestly, had the characters looked a little bit more appealing, I think that's the one thing too. Like, the game could be fun, but if it's not visibly like appealing, you're just not going to enjoy it as much. People play games to escape reality and kind of get immersed in what they're playing. So when you get to, if I'm playing a robot that looks like a trash can, like that's not really something that I'm trying to do.
So maybe especially their failure when the game then wasn't really so much as the developers, but maybe on like the graphics team.
Well, the graphics look good, which again, it's like,
or art team. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think whoever designed the way it looks is at fault here. This is definitely, I honestly foresee this kind of being a case study for MBAs in the future, because there's so many ways that they could have done better to release this game. The crazy thing is, like, Sony has been crushing it, and for them to make a mistake like this is crazy, because they had such big plans for this game. They have an episode in the new Amazon show Secret Levels.
Yeah, I was reading that too. Yeah.
There was like also rumors that it had its own movie or TV show, that they were in the works of getting this to kind of really expand the Concord universe, which again, it's crazy to see because of how well Sony has been doing recently with Helldivers. Then you had Black Myth Wukong come out that was basically selling out PlayStations in China. And now you have Astrobot that just came out, which is being strongly considered as a strong game of the year candidate. Like, everyone is saying it's a masterpiece. So it's to go from all this success, and then you have the Concord just sitting in there tainting the legacy of what Sony is.
Well, I also wonder if they're going to like revisit it or do something, because I mean, Sony dumped so much money into the development of Concord. So I don't see them like not trying to revisit it, or I at least hope, despite like what that dev was saying on X, I do kind of hope that they get like a second chance with Sony and can put like out like a different game.
It might also just be better for Sony to just drop this completely and just write it off as a loss.
Yeah,
just take the tax credit and move on, because I think it's already left a sour taste in people's mouths. People are already memeing this into oblivion, and I don't think they can pull a No Man's Sky or any other game that's kind of recovered like that. This game, I think, is just dead on arrival, and literally 2 weeks. Like, I don't think this will ever be done again, and Sony would just be dumping more and more money into this to try to bring it back as a free to play. I think Sony did a great thing by giving people their money back. But
you don't see that either. You don't ever see that.
Yeah, they could have definitely gone the route of like, hey, we're gonna take this off the servers, but it'll be back in a couple months or a couple weeks, and just stay patient. And the people that paid for it are kind of screwed. And then maybe even they just tank it down the road because they're like, we're just not getting where we need to get to. But no, they tanked it completely and refunded everyone. So not just like the people that purchased the game, but these these organizations that purchase it, the Targets, the Walmarts, the Best Buys, all these people were refunded and sent back their game. So it's pretty nuts to see.
It's bad when you got developers. Some of the team members of the development team were literally trying to get their name pulled off of the game because it was so embarrassed to have their name. And like I said, no hard feelings to them. I mean, they tried, and hopefully they can put something out in the future that redeems the failure that is Concord.
Yeah, I mean it sucks to see, and it's gonna be a hard thing for them to move on from, because that will always be on their resume. They'll always remember that they worked on Concord. Like this games. Yeah, this game studio might be dead because of their first game being such a failure. Like, I doubt Sony keeps them. And it's sad to see, because the gaming industry has had so much negative news with layoffs, and constant layoffs. It's just crazy to see. And these people that worked extremely hard, like, I don't doubt that they worked extremely, extremely hard. Making a game in 2024 is very, very difficult.
Especially how many games are like being pushed out now too.
Yeah, and the mindset of the consumer, it's always changing, and people will pick up a game and drop a game instantly. Now there's just so much content to consume that it's extremely sad to see, and hopefully they're all able to recover.
Yeah, and I know you were saying too that you had made mention here about them, with one of the big issues with the game was like you didn't feel that connection with the characters. You were saying, I think it was last week, about how they were talking about putting like an episode out like every week, with kind of like a lore on the characters. And it's like, no, like you really gotta, in today's day and age with all these games and the consumers that are out there now, you really have to grab the attention of everyone and, get that attachment to your characters to get people to buy your game and like to keep playing it. So, we could talk about this all day. I want to kind of here. I'll let you finish up. We'll go to the next one.
Oh no, yeah. I guess a thing to end it on is they had a year's worth of cinematics already pre-made, and they were basically super excited to just drop these on a weekly basis.
And now it's in the recycle bin.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And the thing is, like, Sony, the Sony CEO, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, he said that they don't really have those kind of big IPs that people just know about. Like, when you think of like the biggest characters in Sony, it's like, who do you think about? There's so many different areas, but there's no Mario.
Yeah.
There's no Master Chief. Like, Sony doesn't have that kind of go-to thing. They do have some pretty impressive IPs, but again, they just don't have that one thing to kind of tie on to. And I think that's where they kind of messed up. They could have definitely done something a little bit differently. I think maybe had like Kratos, Nathan Drake, and like all these other people as heroes that they could you
that would actually been pretty cool, man. I mean, Sony too. Like, we were talking last week about how Xbox is dropping a lot of its like Xbox exclusives. So hopefully there's something in the future that Sony could really put out there that that's their Super Mario.
Yeah.
So, an article again put out by Eurogamer. They got a lot of good stuff out this week. The developers behind Gearbox's Risk of Rain 2, this Hoopu Games, announced a bunch of them are actually leaving to go join Valve and work with them on their game development. Now, there are rumors that the team would be working on Deadlock, which has been teased by Valve. It's supposed to be their new up-and-coming hero shooter. And, speaking of hero shooters, like we're just talking here about Concord, hopefully, Valve's going to do it right. But they're also talking about these guys, rumor of a new Half-Life, but let's be honest, like, I'm not going to get my hopes up of a Half-Life 3 because, let's be honest, like, these rumors have been around for years about a new Half-Life. So I'm not too sure about that. I mean, honestly, like, developers changing companies, like, really isn't something new, and if I had like if I'm working for this company, especially a game company that really hasn't put out anything huge, and I got somebody like Valve saying, hey, we want to we want some of your best people, right? It's like, you'd almost be stupid not to join. Like Hopu's biggest game was like Deadbolt, and that really didn't do too well either. So hopefully, like, they can, this team can really do something good with Valve, and like I said, with the announcement of like Deadlock, hopefully they can really put out like a good solid game to kind of compete in this hero shooter market.
Yeah, and Hopu actually they released Risk of Rain 2, which is I honestly think it's probably one of the best multiplayer roguelike games of all time. It's just such an incredible game and so much fun. It's one of those games like where you can just go into and just spend hours and hours playing. Super super addicting. The music is great. Gameplay is incredible. You just feel like a god when you're playing that game. And kind of touching on Gearbox, like Gearbox has had such negative news coming out about it with the Borderlands movie flopping and then not getting such a great reception for the Borderlands 4 teaser.
Yeah.
And then them kind of outright purchasing Risk of Rain 2 from Hopu and releasing a DLC which kind of broke the game. Like people are upset that this publisher came in and just took a game that people loved and now made it basically impossible for them to play and not really taking any accountability. The Gearbox CEO actually came out on an article, I think it was last week or sometime this week, comparing themselves to the Beatles, where he was basically saying like everything the Beatles released wasn't a hit. They got maybe like a 25% hit rate, which is about what we're going to, and we're not going to stop just because people don't like what we're creating. We're going to keep creating, and this is when we kind of need your support the most, is when we're dropping our duds. We need y'all to support us so we can drop better stuff. And I was like,
well, Beatles put out millions of dollars worth of music, and wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, and it's to see people do that and then again, like take no accountability that what they're doing is not great. What they're doing is not what people want to see.
Reminds me of like the Bungie CEO who is kind of full of himself too as he's laying off all these people.
Yeah, at least this guy wasn't inviting people to see his supercar collection the day before he fires them. He's like, hey, come and take a look at my Lambo. Oh, hey, by the way, you're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. We're going to get rid of almost 40% of our staff, but hey, here's my Lambo. Yeah, at least he's not as bad as that guy, but still, man, to compare yourself to the Beatles, dude, what a joke.
Yeah, but hopefully Hopu is able to do well. I so far the gameplay that I've seen for Deadlock looks super exciting. It's a pretty fun mix of a MOBA with a hero shooter. It looks pretty fun, looks pretty exciting, and I'm curious to see how they kind of continue to grow it.
I mean, if they got Valve's backing, man, I think it's gonna at least it's got to be decent. It's got to be better than what Concord was.
I mean, Valve created the original hero shooter, so we'll see how everything goes. I mean, people are still playing Team Fortress 2, like they're still playing it, and that game came out when I was in like middle school. I think it was one of the first games I ever played.
Oh man, yeah. TF2 is definitely like super fun, super fun. I mean, that brings back some memories. So here, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, and that's one thing that I think Concord kind of, I guess, touching back on Concord, where they kind of missed the boat. I think Team Fortress 2, they really did a good job of like showing you what the characters do and what the characters are, just based off the way they look, versus a game like Concord, you don't really know. You
got a big heavy dude in TF2 and he's freaking, got these big old guns,
Yeah, the guy wearing a mask is a spy and he's going to be more sneaky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers, dude, just released a Minecraft trailer on September 4th. Now, this is supposed to be released April 4th in 2025. Now, it's going to be starring Jason Momoa, Jack Black, Jennifer Coolidge, Steve Carell, and Daniel Brooks, who was one of the leads in Orange is the New Black. Now, usually these movies that appeal to the younger generation, kind of like the Mario Brother movies and stuff like that, they tend to be a bit more successful. But I'm not sure if you actually like caught the trailer. It looks like it's going to be terrible. It reminds me a lot of the Sonic movie, where I think we were just talking about this last week too, how when they made it, the way Sonic looked was just like way too lifelike, and all the fans were like, no, we're not gonna watch, you need to change this, we need to change this. And within like the first like 10 seconds of the intro, dude, you got Jason Momoa, you got Jack Black dropping down in like a blue shirt, saying, I am Steve. And it's like they look so out of their element in this quote unquote Minecraft world, dude. You see like the pigs and the sheep, man, and they look way too real for, the Minecraft that everybody loves and enjoys is this pixelated, box character, dude. The creepers are fuzzy. It is way too realistic, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to really turn Minecraft into a movie, especially considering like once you actually, beat the game and defeat the Ender Dragon, when you get to the game credit, the end game credits, it just like leaves you with more questions about it. So I'm really kind of curious. I mean, this is the second movie we've talked about that's supposed to be coming up video game related. I know we got, like I said, Sonic the Hedgehog was it 2, and now we got this one, but I think this is going to be a bigger failure than Borderlands. Like I said, I mean, I know we got some big names in here, but it is just like they're doing too much and trying way too hard to go to like these hyper realistic characters. It looks too much.
Yeah, I think this will be a little bit different in the sense that, like you said, I think it's more catered to kids. I was not a big fan of the way the trailer looked. I actually didn't mind the textures for the land, the creepers.
The teeth looked real.
The teeth part was a little crazy with the sheep. Like that was a little insane, but I didn't mind everything else. Like had they not had the teeth, I think the sheep would have been fine. The piglins were cool. You get to see, I think it's an Enderman back there, but I couldn't really 100% tell. The creepers look pretty cool, but everything else just kind of...
They were like fuzzy. They're supposed to be scary.
Well, they're made out of grass, technically, so I guess it's like I could see the fuzziness. I'm not opposed to that. I didn't like the whole dropping real people into the Minecraft world. I would have preferred it to all be animated versus
100%,
having
100%
real people that part kind of ruined it for me. But like I said, I think it'll do better than Borderlands because I think
Minecraft, dude, really?
No, 100%. Just because Minecraft appeals more to younger kids and the younger generation, and I think young kids are.
You think they won't really care?
No, I think they're going to enjoy this. Honestly, like even some of the comedy that you kind of hear in it, it's very like TikTokified. Like it's very much like stuff that you would hear on TikTok. And
so do you think it's going to be stuff like when we were kids, like we ate it up with like Hey Arnold and all this stuff like that, and then it's like now we're listening to it as adults and we're like, how did we even like this stuff?
I mean, if you watch a cartoon like from today's world, like you'll sit there and you'll be like, what are you watching? Like, how are people watching this? Like I just watching my little brother watch like Skibbity toilet videos for hours, and I was like, what are you doing? Like the amount of brain rot that these kids have because they were born with iPads and born with cell phones, and it's just their attention span is so low that these like videos or movies with bright colors and constant just like one-liners or memes that they understand and they're able to comprehend, they just think in memes. So just seeing that, I think it'll do well for that. I think a lot of parents are going to take their kids to watch it.
And they're going to be falling asleep.
I think, probably. I think the older generation that like grew up on Minecraft, I was watching a couple YouTubers reactions, like Minecraft YouTubers reactions, and they were all saying like, I hate it, but I'm going to go watch it because I mean, Minecraft is such a big part. Yeah, it's like it's such a big part of their lives, and it's like you're going to go watch it, you're going to see it, you're going to experience it for yourself. And I don't know, again, like I love Minecraft. Like I've played Minecraft. Like we played it in high school together. Like playing it like on Xbox. That was my kind of first exposure to Minecraft. And then as I grew up, it's still being able to jump in and just enjoy it. And whether it's trying to beat the game or just going around and building and mining just for fun, just to waste some time. It's such a fun game. And for a company like Mahjong that literally probably prints money, like I could imagine them making like billions of dollars a month just off Minecraft. Like, it's crazy.
I'm gonna hold it to you. I'm gonna hold it to you that you're saying that Minecraft is gonna be better than, or do better in the box office than Borderlands. I don't see it. I mean, it was only like a 20-second trailer, but I don't know. I'm not seeing it.
To be fair, Minecraft is such a bigger IP than Borderlands. I think Borderlands failed completely. Like, they missed the mark. Just off when I saw the original trailer and they weren't using like No Rest of the Wicked as the song, like, that's crazy. Like, that's such an iconic song for Borderlands. Like, when you would watch the Borderlands game intro or the trailers for the game, it's always that song.
Yeah, it could have been like a copyright thing though.
I mean, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars making that movie. They definitely could have gotten it. And they were already using it in the game. It's like, what's going to stop them from paying that fee to be able to use a song? And then the Minecraft trailer, not using a Minecraft song on the trailer is crazy. Yeah. Like, I think that would have been so much better. But I 100% think this is going to do at least 10 times better than Borderlands did in the box office.
Like I said, I'm a holy too. Like I said, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that, you know, it was their first trailer. But like I said, seeing them all hop in there, dude, like the lighting's off. It's just they're way out of the element. Like I said, I showed my 7-year-old daughter it, and she was like, "Oh, Minecraft!" So, you know, that's who they're appealing to, I guess. So I mean, we'll see, dude. I'm gonna hold you to it. Come end of April, we're gonna see how well they did, and we'll definitely be talking about it once it comes out and see how they do.
And maybe they pull a Sonic and change some stuff up. Like, maybe it's they see the reception, they see all these people hating this, and they're going to go back.
But could you imagine a Jason Momoa animated or a Jack Black animated?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I don't think they would go back and animate them. I think they would still be kind of they would still have their physical bodies. It's just too much for them to go back into production and remake them into.
Are you talking about more like the creepers and like the piglets and the sheep?
Yeah. Jason Momoa, I think, is a terrible cast for this movie.
He does things like Aquaman. How are you going to put him in a freaking
Minecraft? Maybe it's one of those things where like his kids kind of were like, "Oh yeah, we love Minecraft," and he was like wanting to do something.
Or maybe it's going to be this big action-packed badass movie with Jason Momoa just blowing up creepers.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Dude, so we've talked about this game a lot, dude. As of September 3rd, man, Black Myth Wukong has topped over $850 million in gross revenue on Steam alone. And I am so curious as to just how much money they're going to be making overall, because there's not a whole lot of information out there as far as PlayStation, and this game still isn't even out on Xbox just because of the limitations of the console. Now, we may mention this is China's like first big, you know, AAA game, and it's kind of opened up, I think, people's eyes to kind of see what kind of games like China can push out. You know, China's really big in like the mobile game scene and stuff like that. So to see a game like Black Myth Wukong accumulate this much freaking money, dude, in this short amount of time, I think people are really excited to kind of see what other games China pushes out. Now, China accounts for, I think, 76% of the total sales on Steam. So I'm kind of curious to like how many more copies in total will be sold once it's released on Xbox, if it ever does get released on Xbox. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have to figure something out. And it's so cool to see like how many eyes now are on this gaming industry. And, you know, with China putting out such a huge hit, you know, maybe more game devs will start taking, you know, their development more serious, because now there's more teams that they got to compete against. And, you know, Bungie is making a step in the right direction with taking their development seriously. They actually were on trial with Aim Junkies, and Aim Junkies were, if you don't know what Aim Junkies is, if you're a huge like competitive player, Aim Junkies is pretty much a cheat. So, you know, your aimbot, wall hacks, all this stuff like that. So Aim Junkies and Bungie were on trial and they were denied a new trial against Bungie, and Bungie was awarded $4.3 million in damages and fees. So I'm really hoping, like with Bungie like this, going to step in the right direction. I really hope companies like Activision and Epic, that they start taking notes, because these cheat companies are ruining their games. And if we want these other countries taking our games serious and to be invested in them, as much as we are, I think we all need to start taking the integrity of our online play a lot more seriously.
And I think what this kind of shows too is what the gaming market, what the consumer actually wants. Like, they're tired of all these live service games coming out or games being released and not being completed. Like, people want to see a good story, good combat, or good gameplay. Like, that's all people necessarily care about. Like, we don't care about these convoluted live service models that people have been releasing, that developers have been releasing for the last couple of years, trying to get a piece of the Fortnite pie. Like, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of games be released just to be shelved, whether it's a year or two down the road. Games like Knockout City, Rumbleverse, and all these other different battle royales that were just being released, I feel like, every other week. And another thing too, it goes to show how big the Chinese market is. And I'm interested to see if any developers are going to start releasing games catered more to that Chinese market, because China has such a huge brand loyalty to them, where I don't know if you saw this was I think a year ago, where cell phone company Huawei was starting to take some market cap away from Apple because it was more patriotic and it was seen more as, we're supporting China for this. So the sales for this cell phone just kind of blew up in China. So I'm curious to see if people are going to start seeing, like, okay, there's a market there that is kind of untouched. Let's start catering our games towards China and see what happens. And again, I think as long as the game is good, the Western audience will enjoy it as well.
100%, dude. And like, the only thing about a lot of the Chinese games, I think they have to censor their games a certain amount, like with the gore and stuff like that. But one thing that Black Myth has proven with these developers out there is that they will stick to the lore. They are not trying to appease to a woke culture. They're not going to sit there and turn their lead character into a black lesbian to appease some little graphic. They're doing it right, in my opinion.
I don't know if you saw IGN released a hit piece on the developers of Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah, they were like they were trying to bait them into saying something bad. The dudes were like, "We don't care. Like, you're not."
Yeah, because of the way they treated women and how there were no women in the game and all this other stuff. And yeah, like you said, they just like, oh, okay, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And you're not going to get us to say something, to change change the way we do things.
Yeah.
I think again, more developers need to be like that. Stick to what people want. Is quit changing everything to appease to a small minority. Like I said, nothing wrong with changing little things here and there, but like I said, a black lesbian, dude, no, you can't change key characters like that to appease to a woke culture.
Again, you see it in games all the time. As long as it's not thrown into your face, like, it's completely fine. Baldur's Gate, you had a gay vampire that was one of the main characters, and people loved him. And again, it's one of those things, like, if it's not just thrown directly into your face and it's made such an integral part of the game, like, who cares? Overwatch, same thing. It's like, no one cares.
There was, I just saw, I think it was like yesterday, a video. So, I mean, we're all familiar with like James Bond. And this lady was like asking the writer, the developer or director of James Bond, like, what are the chances that James Bond could be gay? And the guy's just like, come on, we're not, there's no need to have to do that. Like you said, there's no reason to shove that down everybody's throats. I think everybody's getting tired of it. And I said, everybody has been speaking with their wallets and not buying games because of that stuff.
I don't know if you saw the last James Bond movie that Daniel Craig did. So if you didn't see it, I guess spoilers, but the new 007 ends up being a black woman, and people were
they lose
like
it.
throwing, yeah, they lost it, and they're like, "What is this? Like, James Bond should never be a woman, let alone a black woman. Like, what is this?"
His name's James Bond.
And granted, it wasn't going to be James Bond anymore. It was going to be the new 007 was just this black woman now. But people were so upset about it that they quickly went in and said, "Okay,
dude,
no." It
James
was just
Bond has been about a middle-aged man for how long?
Yeah, since the 50s, 60s, whenever.
How do you change that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh man, what a joke. So anyway, dude, so I don't know if you saw, there's a Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting is actually putting out a new game. They're re-releasing all their arcade classics on September 12th. And that's kind of a game I'm looking forward to coming on. There's also some games I think we need to check out on Steam. They got Sea of Thieves at 35% off at $32.49. Game, Steve, I highly recommend you check out because you're a fan of these games. It's called Shift Happens. It's like a 2-player game, kind of similar to It Takes Two. So that's at 90% off at $1.59. I think would be a really fun game to play with your kids or play with friends on. And we were talking about Hopu Risk of Rain 2, and 67% off at $8.24 on Steam if you guys want to check that out that we were talking about earlier. And also No Man's Sky is 60% off as well at $23.99. So if you guys are looking for some new games to play over the week or weekend and sink a bunch of hours into, I highly suggest those. So that's it for today's episode of No BS. If you enjoyed the unfiltered conversations, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube at No BS Podcast GG. Also, don't forget to connect with us on X at No BS Podcast GG for all the latest updates and more. Make sure you catch me live on TikTok as well at Blake No BS. We appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week with more straight talk. No BS.